Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So PvE now has a new patch, and there's a whole bunch of wacky and different changes and even new items, a bunch of reworks, and a lot of just really cool information that we're going to be taking a look at in this video in our early next patch preview. So as usual, if you guys end up enjoying this kind of video and you want me to continue doing it, then let me know by simply hitting that like button. So GG Esports is a sponsor of the channel. It's a great site to play with your friends to bet on LCS games for fun. But the cool thing is you don't use real money, you use their website currency instead. And you can redeem these points to win sweet prizes like keyboards, iPads, iPhones, RP cards, and more. So make sure to hit that join now button because there's a sweet event going on between myself, Gaming Curios, and Brofresco, where if you join Team Redmercy and you consistently predict the right outcome of the games, then 10 of you will be chosen by GG Esports to win RP cards, which is pretty damn cool, so it's a win-win for everyone. I'll show you guys how the site works at the end of the video. Alright guys, so the very first thing that I want to talk about is going to be the lethality rework. After this stat has been nerfed several times in the past, I mean, it's been pretty lackluster and it really hasn't been as strong or as useful as it once was. And it seems like Riot definitely agrees with that, and they did quite a number of changes to try and bring it back up to speed and make champions that actually build lethality or want to build lethality be able to actually get the stat without feeling like they're losing a lot of stats and viability. So first and foremost, they reworked the stat itself, because now lethality is calculated based on the owner's level and not the opponent's level. Now this is actually a really good change because at the moment champions that usually do build lethality are assassin-y type champions, right? For instance, Zed. And a lot of the times, I mean, you want to be ahead on those champions, so you're going to be usually out leveling a lot of the champions, or at least trying to, especially the bot lane. So since now lethality is based on your level, not the enemy's level, it means it'll scale that much faster rather than waiting for your targets, like the ADC for instance, that will usually be 1 or 2 levels below you since they are down on the bot lane sharing experience with their support, and you'll be able to kill them that much better, so a pretty good change. But they also changed the items that actually use the lethality stat as well. Now the first of which is of course Duskblade of Drakthar. The build path for this item has been changed to getting a serrated dirk plus a Caulfield's Warhammer, and of course the recipe itself. The total cost has been slightly lowered, the attack damage offered has also been slightly lowered, however the proc damage from Night Stalker has been changed to scaling from lethality and being true damage to just being a flat 150 physical damage. Again, the idea here is to try and make Duskblade of Drakthar a very good first item buy. But it also has a new effect where it now slows the target by 99% for 0.25 seconds, and it also grants 10% CDR, but no longer gives out of combat movement speed. In my opinion, a pretty worthy trade-off. Next up we have Youmuu's Ghostblade. Now the AD on this item has been lowered by 5, the total cost has actually been increased by 100, but the out of combat movement speed has been increased by double, which is pretty damn useful. And the active effect now offers you 40% movement speed rather than 20, and then it'll slowly decay back down to 20% over the duration. And of course we also have Edge of Night, where the recipe has also been slightly changed. The total cost has actually been lowered by 100. It'll now grant you 250 HP, so being slightly more defensive, no longer granting you out of combat movement speed, and the magic resist is flat out gone. In my opinion, this is a pretty decent change on the item, especially if you get it maybe as a second item, because now again the flat HP is just kind of a better stat and it'll just help you a lot more. But of course getting this item late game is going to be pretty damn bad, so if you ever do get Edge of Night, it should usually be your first, maybe second item. But overall, some pretty decent changes. The items have more identity to themselves, so you want to get one specifically now based on the scenario, and I still feel like going Duskblade plus Youmuu's will be quite viable. Next up, I want to talk about yet another rework happening in this patch, and this one is going to be to Singed. Now I'm sure some of you remember that I talked about a Singed rework in the previous video. I talked about the previous patch on the PvE about 2 weeks ago, but it actually got reverted and it's back once again with some changes and some pretty big ones at that. So to start things off, the base health and the health growth has actually both been increased. So first and foremost, his passive has been completely reworked and now states the following. Singed will draft off of nearby champions, gaining 25% movement speed for 2 seconds. Each champion having a 10-second cooldown. This definitely sounds like a fitting type of passive for a champion like Singed that literally just runs around the whole map consistently and being very obnoxious. Following this, the AP ratio on his Q has actually been increased by 10%, and the base damage on it has also been slightly decreased. His W that provides the slow has had a change as well, where the mana cost has been lowered. The cooldown has been changed from 14 at all ranks to all the way down to 13 by rank 5, but starting at 17 rank 1. The slow on this ability is now sitting at 40% despite the actual level of the W. The adhesive duration has been lowered by by 2 seconds, and it now has a completely new effect, which I actually think makes it pretty OP. Enemies in the area are now also grounded, prohibiting the use of movement abilities. Now, another champion that has this ability on her kit is going to be Cassiopeia with her W, where essentially what it means is if you're inside her W, or in this case Singe's W, you cannot use any movement type abilities like Flash, any types of dashes like a Lucian E, a Kali ultimate. You can't even use the Summoner Teleport. So this means that if you are stuck within Singe's W, literally the only way to possibly even get out of it is just simply to run out of it. You can't use anything else, not even taking a Thresh Lantern. So this is definitely going to be quite the interesting change for Singed, but it doesn't stop there because the E mana cost has actually been lowered as well, and his ultimate's mana has been lowered, and the stats offered by his ultimate has also been changed. So quite the hefty rework happening to Singed. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what to think about it. I don't really see the champion too often, nor do I play him. I feel like this will be quite interesting, and I feel like a lot of the Singed players will be very happy with it, and I feel like Singed may slowly become a bit more popular, but at the end of the day, he's still somewhat of a gimmicky champion, so I don't expect to see his play rate increase too much. Following that, we have yet another rework happening to Udyr. Now, this champion did get a rework a few patches ago, but apparently it didn't do anything because he's still pretty useless, but maybe this will change it up. So first off, the base movement speed on the champion has flat out been increased, which is a pretty welcoming change. His passive has been completely reworked. It now states the following: when Udyr changes stances during combat, again keep in mind combats, he gains 4% attack speed, 4% CDR, and 6% base attack damage for 7 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Which means once it does get to 5 stacks, that's 20% attack speed, 20% CDR, and 30% base attack damage increase. In my opinion, that's actually pretty friggin' good, and I think that's actually going to be quite strong. But following this, there's also changes to his other abilities. So for instance, Tiger Stance, the cooldown has been lowered by 1 second, the attack speed duration has been increased by 1 second, the dot damage on Tiger Stance has been changed to have higher base damage but lower scaling. The dot duration, however, has been increased from 2 seconds to 6 seconds, and it now has a new effect where the dot deals plus 6% damage for each inner beast passive stack Udyr has at the time of application. So in other words, if you have all 5 stacks of your passive and then you apply the Tiger Stance dot damage, that's a 30% damage increase, which essentially makes up for the loss of scaling in the ability, but definitely will do a lot of damage since now it's 270 base damage rank 5. So Tiger Stance seems pretty damn good now. Now following this, we have the Turtle Stance and the Bear Stance, where both of them had the cooldown lowered by 1 second, which isn't really all that impactful, but I mean it's something worth mentioning. And then Phoenix Stance has also gotten a rework where the cooldown has also been lowered, the active duration has been increased by 2 seconds, the damage on his Flame Aura has actually been changed to deal more damage in the earlier ranks, but slowly it'll deal less base damage as you rank it up compared to currently. And what makes this somewhat interesting is the fact that the scaling on Phoenix Stance has finally been changed from 100% AP to 120% bonus AD, which is a complete switch in how you want to itemize the champion and how you can actually play him, especially with Phoenix Stance. But it doesn't stop there, because the Fire Cone has also had his damage changed to deal more damage in the earlier ranks but less damage in the later ranks. The scaling has also been changed from AP to bonus AD, and this ability will also do bonus damage based on how many stacks you have of your passive. So some pretty significant changes to Udyr as well. I mean, that's 3 reworks so far, but there's still so many more things to cover, so let's get right into that next. Now this is going to be a mini rework happening to the summoner spell Smite. Now it's definitely worth mentioning, it isn't completely game changing, but it's pretty damn cool. Smite can now be used on medium monsters. So what does that mean? Well, the Krug has also been changed too, from a small monster to a medium monster. So that means once you kill the big one, you can still smite the smaller ones. And this definitely may change the way you decide to clear your jungle and the way you want to just maybe do your thing. Again, not the biggest thing in the entire world, but it's still definitely something completely new and different. Following this, I also want to talk about a mini rework happening to Diana, because I feel like this will definitely change the way you want to play her and the way you may want to level up your abilities. And here are the changes. Her passive no longer grants 20% attack speed, which was kind of very important to her kit. The cooldown on her Q ability has actually been slightly lower at the earlier ranks, but then her E ability now actually has a completely new effect, which is essentially her ult passive. And it states the following: passively. Diana's spell casts grant her 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% attack speed for the next 3 auto attacks. So instead of just her passive flat out offering her 20% attack speed, instead it offers her up to 80% attack speed for the next 3 auto attacks every time she uses a spell, which is very interesting. It may change the way you want to build her items, and it also may change what you want to level up in what order, since her E ability now actually offers her pretty useful stuff. And the last thing I wanted to mention is going to be a new item and also a rework happening to Thornmail. So the new item is called the Bramble Vest. Now this is going to be an item that builds into the new Thornmail. Now Bramble Vest will cost you 900 gold, which isn't all that expensive. It'll build out of 2 cloth armors plus of course the recipe itself, and it'll give you the following stats. Plus 35 armor and a unique passive called Thorns, which states, upon being hit by a basic attack, reflects 25 magic damage, inflicting grievous wounds on the attacker for 1 second. Now for only 900 gold and a pretty solid build path, I mean that's actually quite good, and the fact that it applies the grievous wounds debuff is also quite damn strong, because the new Thornmail, as I'm sure you can guess, also applies this. So as the tank, whenever you're going to be essentially tanking the enemy ADC's damage, applying the grievous wounds on them that easily is going to be insanely effective. But speaking of the Thornmail, here it is. It has been completely reworked, because now not only does it have a new build path using the new item that we just talked about, Bramble Vest, plus a Ruby Crystal, and also plus a Warren's Mail. It'll now cost you 2900 gold, it'll give you 250 HP, only 75 armor instead of 100, but it'll give you the unique passive of Thorns, which is the same one from Bramble Vest, but it'll also give you a unique passive called Cold Steel, which is obviously from the Warden's Mail, which will slow people that attack you. This is definitely a pretty big buff to the tanky champions. Why Riot decided to do this is beyond me, but I mean it's there, and it's most likely going to be coming to the live servers in 2 weeks, so be prepared. And here's how it works very quickly. First, you look at the list of all possible upcoming LCS games, pick on the one that you want to bet on, and click the Bet Now button. It'll take you to the screen where you can bet on various ways as to which team will win the overall best of 3. In this case, I feel like TSM definitely has it. But the great thing about this website is that there's several ways you can bet on the game. So you can bet on overall, just the best of 3 in general. You can bet on each game specifically, game 1, 2, and 3, and you can even bet on which team will win the first game. But then to make things even more interesting, there's actually even further ways to bet. You can click on exotic odds, which will even let you bet on things like first blood in game 1. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do like that. I'll have a link to them down below. It's free to play. Highly recommend checking it out. But that right there is about it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then let me know by hitting that like button, subscribe if you haven't, let me know what you think about this patch and the early look, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.